All right, guys, welcome to the channel. I'm going to give you a master class today in Evoto AI. Are you ready? Because I'm going to go through from the beginning, from tethering to culling to editing, retouching, and finally exporting out to deliver. So I'm going to take you through the whole process. Give the video a like, give it a subscribe. The likes really help the video to get seen by other photographers who might want to see this information. So if you have any comments, leave a comment below, questions, things like that. I'll try to answer as best as I can. Let's get going. All right, if you don't already have Evoto AI, go down to the link in the description. That will take you out to where you can download it. Use my code GKP25. That will get you up to 20% off and some free credits. Just informational to start off with. You can see I have a lot of projects that I created in 2025, but I have another 131 projects that are not even categorized into a year. I've been using this product since 2023. Okay. So it's difficult for me to replicate, a new install because I've been using this for so long. But let's just start with, I'm going to go ahead and tell you there is a library view. This is where all of your photography projects are going to be, right? And then there is an edit view at the top, right? This is where you're going to go in and do your editing, your retouching, all of that, okay? Cropping, all of these things, and we'll go through all of that. Let's start off with the library. And you're probably not going to see anything here if this is a new install for you, or if you've used Evoto before, you'll see your projects in here, right? I'm going to come over here to the left panel over here where all of my projects are listed, and I'm going to hit this little plus. I'm going to choose Create Project. Now, if I wanted to first create a group like you see over here, that would be my years. I have a group called 2026 and a group called 2025, depending on how you want to organize it. You're only able to create one group. I was kind of hoping I could create subgroups by month maybe, but for now, you have one group. Maybe you don't want to group it by year. Maybe you want to have some other kind of group, but I'm going to create a project. If I select this 2026 and then hit this plus right here, I'm going to create a project, and that's going to put it in the 2026 group, okay? And we're going to call this project, we'll work on Maya again, and I'm going to import from scratch. I was just did this shoot last night, okay? So we'll call it Maya Test for now. And I'm gonna, you notice you have the option to sync here. There are cloud options. Look into that on their website. You get a certain amount of space to begin with, but you can sync your projects to the cloud. Be careful if you're shooting raw. It's a lot of information and a lot of data. I'm not going to choose that for now. I'm just going to hit create. Okay, now there's two ways to get your shots into Evoto, right? You can tether, so tethered shooting. You'll see me doing that in studio, and the shots are coming up and they're displayed on the screen, and that gets the shots, and you can tether either JPEG or RAW, right? I like to tether JPEG in studio because it's faster. Okay, RAW files are larger, but you can do either or, okay? Before I get into tethering, the second way real quickly to bring in your photos is just go out to your file system, select them all, Control or Command A, right? And then click and drag them over into this import images or really anywhere in here, and it will bring them into the project for you. That's what I do a lot when I didn't tether, right? Maybe I shot on location outside, there was no tethering. Okay, so that's how to quickly get them in. You can also just hit the import images over here or import folder, navigate out, select your files and import them in. That's the quickest way to do it. Or tethered shooting, if we click on that tethered shooting, now we have on this side the tethered shooting panel, and you can see we have the option for either wired tethering or wireless tethering. Okay, so I've got this already. I'm using the Sony A7R5. I'm going to wirelessly tether now. If you guys have ever tethered before, you know you have a tether cable going from your camera to your laptop, and when you connect that, you should see under this camera information your camera appear, right? I'm going to do wireless, and I've pre-configured my Sony A7R5 with the appropriate settings to connect wirelessly, okay? So I'm going to turn this camera on, and under wireless tethering, I'm going to come here, and you can see it's detecting the camera. So far it's not detected, but let's see what happens here. So you see pretty quickly it sees my Sony A7R5, and I can hit connect, and it connects very quickly, and I'm good to go. Okay, I can start shooting right now, and it will start bringing in photos. Now I'll just take a picture of, say, the wall back here, and it's not even going to be the greatest picture in the world, but just as a sample, we'll take that shot right there. And you can see just like that, the shot came up and we're tethering, right? I'll put a link down to where the support pages are for your cameras, because there is some pre-configuration you need to do. My Sony a7R5, for example, didn't work right out of the box. I had to go into the menu and set some settings in the Wi-Fi settings in order for it to wirelessly tether. Now, wired tether, same thing. It just worked right away for me. Your mileage may vary. I would recommend anytime you run into a problem or have a question, go to their support link right here. If you click on support at the top, they have a knowledge base, and maybe I just type in tethering, right? And it will come up wireless tethering and some different articles here, right? It will also have different cameras here: wireless tethered shooting with mobile, Sony, Olympus, Leica, Panasonic, Fujifilm, and obviously they're going to have Canon and Nikon, all of those. So if you need help getting connected, go out here and search their support site. Just look up tethering, you'll find it. And follow the instructions and you'll more than likely get connected. As long as the series of your camera is in the supported list, you can see some of these. It tells you for Canon and Nikon which series they're going to support, okay? You can also set up your capture location. So the last location I used was on a shoot with Leanna, and I saved it to this location here. I've got different settings that you can set here as far as capturing. Also, if you want to apply a preset during your capture, you can do that as well. Let's do Maya test. So you can see on the left side here, this is my library. I'm in the library panel. Remember, there's two panels, okay? All right, and I'm going to come out and navigate to where I have her photos. So here they all are, and I want to sort by type, and I'm just going to bring in, we can do RAW or we can do JPEG. I think for the sake of speed and getting these files in to import quicker, I'm just going to use the JPEGs. These studio shots, which are very, I will say, sterile. We can say import into a new project or into the current project. I just want it to be into the current project because I created this project called Maya Test on the left. What I was going to say is JPEGs, where you don't need a lot of latitude with your highlights and your shadows and recovering skies and things like that when you're in studio and it's a very sterile environment. I don't really need RAW, to be honest with you. I've been able to bring in JPEGs like this, and these are, mind you, 60 megapixel JPEGs from the Sony a7R5. Okay, so we imported 350 photos in there. RAWs will take a little bit longer to import depending on the size of your session, right? But when you import them in, you can see down here at the bottom, if you've ever used a photo editor before, you'll get the previews at the bottom. It's kind of used to what I'm seeing, right? If you'll notice, I am still in the library view. We have down in the bottom right different views within the library view, okay? The loop view is what I'm used to seeing. I use Lightroom for many, many years, Lightroom and Photoshop, okay? So I'm used to this view where I have the photos, at the bottom. I can use my hand down here. I can grab this little section here. I can make them larger or smaller if I want to, right? So this is the view that I'm most accustomed to working with just because I work in Lightroom for years. The survey view will allow you to compare a couple photos, right? So if you're used to seeing that. So if I want to compare these two photos, I can, maybe 3 photos, 4 photos, so you can do those comparisons. And I'm just holding down the control key in Windows and selecting multiple photos at a time, okay? I'm going to hit Control D, and that's going to deselect all except for this one. So that is the survey view, okay? Let's go to the loop or the grid view, which is this last one over here. This is where, if you're going to do manual culling, I do a lot of manual culling, just being honest, okay? For the reasons I said earlier, this is where you're going to want to do it in, because I can, for example, assign, if you're used to assigning star ratings, color ratings, flags, things like that, however you do your culling and you rate your photos, this is where you can do it. And this is where you want to do it, because I can say I want this one, I think, is a 5-star, right? Maybe I think all of these are 5 stars. I can hold down Shift, click on this last one, and you see it selects all of those. Now, if I hit this first one and then hit it again, it's going to set all of these to 5. So it's going to sync them up. What if I use red? I use red a lot. It's fire, right? Red is like definitely like 5 stars is great. But then I'll be like, oh, well, this one is definitely fire. I'm going to make that one red. Okay. So say this one here, I'm going to set it to, maybe I think this one, I'm going to hold down control again, this one and this one they're all 5 stars, but you know what? As I'm going through, maybe I think, all 3 of these are fire, and I'll hit red, right? And it sets all 3 of them to red. So whatever you have selected, it syncs them for you. So the way I do my manual culling down here in the bottom right, you can see I can increase the size of my grid if I want to. And I usually, that's not any help at all. This is usually where I keep it, and I can usually go through and see, this might be too small for you. Maybe you go a little bit like this. This is pretty good. I can see the shots that, and I'm using the arrow keys just to navigate downward. I can easily come through, and I mean, these are okay, but I know she's done some better shots, right? I don't necessarily mind the smiling. The culling, I think that's a cute shot. It's not one necessarily that I would pick, but let's just say I did. I'd hit the 5 on my keyboard. That's a 5 star. Come down here. I like this one because she's got a little squint in her eyes. I'm going to hit that 5, right? And I'm going to come down here. And so I can quickly just go through the images, right? I like the way she's turned here. I'm going to give that a 5, but it's not fire yet. This is a commercial model, so maybe I want a shot where she's smiling, right? Because that's a very inviting look. If you're modeling products and things like that, you want to be friendly. You want to look happy. Sometimes you want people to go, oh, look, she's got our product, and look how happy she is because she's using our product, right? Here's one. I like this one because she parted her lips. Does AI know that I like that? Not yet, I don't think, right? So we can go down a little bit further. There's one with a little smile. Here's one where her chin is up a little bit. So we can keep going through these. Oh, this is nice, right? This is another one that I really like, right? Maybe I think that's fire. So I'm going to hit the number 6 corresponds to red, by the way, in case you didn't know, or I could hit the little red right here. So I can manually cull like that, okay? So by now, my picks are going to be, everyone has their own way of doing it for whatever reason. I always said 5 star is a keeper. Some people will say 1 star, however you like to do it. 5 star is a keeper, but then red is usually going to go on, on the Instagram grid or something, or it's going to be 5 was great, but red is, definitely going to be there. That's how I do it. Okay. So that's how you manually cull. Okay. And that's how you manually sync. Like I can't go from the loop view over here. This loop view is not for assigning ratings, even though it looks like it here. If I select these 3 and I hit 5, it's only going to assign a 5 to this first one. It doesn't do all of them. So that's a gotcha. You got to be in this grid view to do that kind of syncing of ratings and manual culling. This is how I recommend you do it. One of the things is if you are in this library panel, you do have the options. If you come over to the info tab, this is where your metadata is, right? And it's going to tell you what lens you were using, what camera you were using, different stuff about the exposure. All of that stuff is in here. And you can also filter. We touched on this earlier. I do this from the loop view. If I want to filter my shots by what was 5 stars, what was red, to unfilter, there's a little clear filters X here. You can do that. I've got options. Other filtering options, whether the shot was edited or not, whether it's been exported or not, because you want to know, hey, did I use a credit on this shot already? What format is the file in? JPEG, RAW, TIFFs, file orientation. Maybe I just want to look at all my landscape photos. For me, that comes in handy when I'm trying to do a YouTube thumbnail and I go, oh, did I remember to take a landscape shot for the thumbnail? Usually I forget, but I can come over here and look for landscape and you can see there's none, so I forgot. We can also look at filter by camera. We only had one. If I was using multiple cameras, I could filter out those shots, and then my lens was the 24-70, the Sigma Art version 2. Okay, so let's navigate this library interface a little bit, because the next thing we're going to do is culling. But I often will do, this is the smart culling feature that they have, right? And it will find things like eyes closed, smiling or not smiling, exposure, whether it's overexposed or underexposed, and it will go through and pick the best shots based on your criteria. Now let's go to smart culling, okay? And make sure you're in the library panel. Make sure you're in the culling section over here. That's this one right here, okay? And you've got down at the bottom, you've got the smart culling. Now there's a little settings box right there, and this is going to bring up your culling preferences, all right? I've got 350 photos. Maybe I want to limit my results set that it culls to a smaller number, or maybe I want to bring this down to like 50 shots, right? Maybe that's all I'm going to deliver for the client. So here's one where I want to pick more front-facing photos. Maybe if you have a group of people, and they turn around and they walked away, I don't want those, right? That's going to pick the front-facing. In this case, 99, if not 100% of her photos were front-facing, so I'm not going to have it detect that. I want it to detect closed eyes. You know, with models, sometimes that's a vibe. You get a shot with their eyes closed and they're thinking or whatever. In this case, I don't want to see any of those. So laughing, I can filter those out. We can filter photos with a certain amount of people in them too. So you have a lot of leverage as to what you want to filter out, right? To skip, I can skip detection if they're laughing. All of these things, okay? I can look for underexposure detection. I'm going to set that to high, so that gives me the shots that are too dark, way too dark to do anything right. Or overexposure detection, shots that are way too bright or blown out. I didn't have any of those. Blur detection, we definitely want that. You can set them to low, standard, high. How sensitive do you want that detection to be? And it looks like they got a little granular here. I mean, do not mark as blurry if at least one face in it is clear. So again, we're talking about group photos, right? So you have this granularity of how you want to set your detection, okay? And the sensitivity as well, how sensitive you want it to be. This is where your ratings are, like I was talking about. I always use 5 stars and red, but sometimes I'll use flags, right? So you can tell it what you want to rate the AI best picks. And for AI, I'm just going to say I want it to be what they have here. This checked flag is the AI best picks. And I'm going to keep their default candidates is just going to be a blank flag, right? Not selected or rejects, I'm going to leave that. So I'm going to use their flag. Since I like to use stars and colors, I'm going to keep it separate. And so I know that, you know, the culling feature is what was using flags, okay? And then we can keep existing tags. If I already have stuff rated, it's not going to overwrite those, okay? And then we can start culling. Now the culling process, it tells you at the beginning, if you look down here in the bottom right-hand corner, it's going pretty fast. Now it will ramp up and speed up. So if you have 1,000 photos, initially it might say it's going to take 45 minutes. It will start ramping up, and it will take, I've done like 750 shots. It took like 5 or 6 minutes, okay? So initially it might look like it's going to take a long time. And this also depends on your processing power and the speed of your computer. I got a pretty powerful computer, so it's going through these 350 photos pretty quickly, as you can see. All right, and so through the magic of video editing, I just skipped to where it finished, okay? So it says the culling is complete up here, okay? I'm going to turn that off. So let's look and see. It has 50 shots that it thinks are the best picks, 286 shots that were candidates. We did a pretty good job here. I am a professional after all. I don't always get that many candidates, I promise you, okay? I found 3 blurry ones, so 3 of them didn't catch focus. Sony, what's going on here, man, with my A7R5? Could have been photographer error. I'm not past admitting that, okay? No overexposures. It did find 3 underexposures, and that corresponds with the misfires that I was talking about earlier. And then there was 9 closed eyes that it found, okay? So let's look at, I'm curious about these underexposures. So yeah, it found, these were the 2 misfires, and this first one was a test shot, okay? So I had 2 misfires, so that's cool. I can filter out, if I get a lot of misfires, I can filter those out automatically. Very cool, okay? Overexposure, I didn't have any. Blur, it found these same 3, so maybe probably couldn't catch focus because there was not enough lighting there. So actually, that's good. I didn't actually miss focus on anything that it found. Okay. Candidates, these are all what it thinks are good shots. There's no closed eyes. There's no shots where she's facing the wrong direction. These are all potential candidates. And this is where, if I did the culling and I wanted to cull out misfires, eyes closed, things like that, that's going to help me out. And then I can do my manual culling after that. Because I know what a good facial expression is. I know what a good pose is better, I think, at this point than AI does. Okay. So we have a lot of candidates, like the majority of the photos it felt were candidates. Okay. They're properly exposed. She's a good model. No surprise. Okay. But these, it says, are the best picks. And here's where I'm just like scratching my head. I don't know why it's judging these as a best pick. Okay. I would change this one to a no and this one to a no. I'm hitting a little X right on there. So let's say no on those. But, she's got smiles here. I like those. We didn't filter out smiles. So it's looking at headshots. It likes these. It's actually doing a really good job. Here's a good one with almost a smize, right? Here's a squint in the eyes, right? Those are things that I look for. I actually asked her to do that in these shots, and she did a really good job. Here's some other shots. We've got, lips are parted there. Here's a good smile there. It's varying up the angles. These are all really good shots. So it found some different shots, right, that it liked, and it found this set of 50, and that's going to narrow down. And these are all really good shots. So that's going to help me narrow down to 50 of the best picks, right? And it's going to save me time from having to go in and cull. Now, you could use this religiously if you want to save you that amount of time. You could use this in combination with manual culling, or you could just manually cull yourself like I showed you earlier, okay? So that's it for culling, okay? So we've tethered, we showed you how to tether, we showed you how to manually cull and do smart culling, okay? Here's the part maybe you've been waiting for. Let's edit some photos in Evoto AI, okay? So to do that, before we were in the library panel, right? And I'm in the grid view or the loop view as we talked about. Here's where you would go to the edit panel, okay? So I like this shot. I'll take you through, I'm not going to take you through every feature of this program here, but we're going to hit the highlights. And the first thing you usually want to do is come over here to this color adjustments. Now, you want to turn on this real-time adjustments. Now, when you have this turned on, if you had done any retouching, it's going to ignore those. It's going to turn those off because it's a lag on the system when you've done a bunch of retouching over here. That's why I recommend just leave this on when you're in the basic retouching panel. It's not, when you have that on, it's not going to show any of the AI edits, okay, because it's kind of a drag on the system and it slows these sliders down, okay? If I turn this off and I have a bunch of AI edits going on, these things are going to drag and there's going to be latency, right? It takes a second for it to take effect. You can see it. It's not immediate, so that's why you would want this right here. So my typical workflow, and I do have a preset over here to the left. You click here, that will expand the presets panel. There is a mask panel and there is an undo history panel. So if I've done a bunch of edits, I can come back and go, I kind of screwed it up, but I don't want to erase all of them. I want to go back to a certain step in my editing program. I can do that over here, okay? Masks, I'll show you where those are. This is going to reveal what masks you have. Right now I don't have any, it's just the full image, okay? Presets is where I have my own custom presets, which I'm getting ready to release soon, okay? I'm going to have black and white presets and then just some of the basic presets that I use. One of them, and we're not going to go into detail in that here, but one of them is a color adjust preset, and you can see that it was very minimal. If I hit this little thing right here, view before, that's also the space bar right down here. You can hit the space bar, there's the before, and there's the after. So very subtle. It brought up the contrast a little bit, the highlights a little bit, the shadows a little bit. It brought the blacks down just a little bit to -10. It should be doing some vibrance. Yep, vibrance up to 20. Let's look at detail. It does sharpen a little bit, 47. I don't know why I didn't just bring it up to 50. Maybe I'll do that. So real basic, nothing crazy, right? That's what, over the years, editing my portraits, especially studio portraits, that's what gets me in the ballpark of where I want to be almost every time. Now, your mileage may vary depending on how your photo came out. It may need more highlights, more shadows, things like that. This is just my preset. Not available yet, but coming soon. And when you hit that preset, you can adjust the intensity of that and bring it up if I want to, right? So it's going to globally bring all those parameters up. This is the intensity of the preset. Or you can bring it down if it's too much. So you have those adjustments there, right? That was just a way for me to quickly do what I would do manually, okay? So I don't do much. I don't do a lot of curves. Sometimes I will do HSL depending on the skin tones, right? I may want to bring the orange up a little bit or the reds up a little bit. Really, the orange is what is going to impact your skin tones, as well as let's go back to basic, as well as the temp, right? The white balance is going to have a huge impact on your skin tones, okay? If it's too warm, right, you're going to start getting yellowy orange skin depending on your subject, right? Or too blue, they're going to start looking kind of sick, right? So my white balance was pretty much on. You could say as shot, and we'll leave it there. I think by default it will bring it in as shot, right? And then you can set a custom white balance as well. Come in here and hit the dropper, or you could do an AI white balance, which it's going to set it for you, right? I'm just going to turn that off, and I'm just going to use as shot, okay? Because I like the white balance in camera. We've got AI color adjustments in here, and we can do things like color match. If you have an image that you like the tone of, you can import that image and you can match the tones of that image. You can hit auto if you don't know what you want to do. Like I have a preset, I already know what I want to do, but if you don't know, you could hit apply and it's just going to do an auto, right? And I could select multiple files, holding down the shift key, select the first and the last one, and hit auto color corrections, and it's going to do it for you. Let's see what it does. I'm going to deselect it. I'm just going to choose this one, and I'm going to hit auto. I don't ever use this, but it will get you in the ballpark of where it thinks you need to be. I'm not going to go through each one of these. You can explore them, but the most of the time I'm in this basics panel, or sometimes I will go into curves if I need to further refine the highlights, lights, darks, and shadows. This little parametric curves is very handy, okay? HSL, sometimes I'll go in there and I'll adjust the saturation, things like that. Or in color grading, you get, some more options there where you can really get in and make those color adjustments, okay? You can add grain, there's lens corrections, there's transform, vertical offsets, horizontal offset. It's all there. Now, one thing I didn't mention, we've been working on the full image, is masking, okay? We do have masks, so if you didn't realize that was there, and masking is a big part of your workflow, we do have it here, and you can sync everything that I've done so far. I can do it on one image, and I can sync that same change to all the rest of the images. So I'll give you an example of that in a minute, because that's where the power of Evoto is I only have to edit one image, and whether it's the AI retouching or in this basic color adjustments panel or it's mask, I can sync them all, okay? We can mask the person, we can mask the background, or we can use a custom mask, okay? So in the person, you have the options of entire person, or you can come down here and update mask areas, and you can see you can target all these different areas, whether it's skin, hair, eyes, lips, teeth, clothes. And you can also have the option, these are automatic masks that are going to pick, say, let's just pick the face, and it's going to, we'll update the mask, and it's going to just mask the face, okay? So if we wanted to do edits just on the face, they're only going to apply on the face, right? I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to update the mask. Over here, you can see we've got this mask here. I'm going to turn that mask off so you can see it starts adding the masks to the list, okay? So I'm going to delete that mask, and it's gone. Kind of weird that it's over here on the left and the mask settings are over here, but that's how they did it. Now, custom, if you're used to using linear gradients, obviously you have background. You can use a brush if you want to brush in a mask, linear gradient, radial gradients, those are here, okay? They're under custom, all right? Now make sure once you've done, say you've done a linear gradient for whatever reason, maybe I wanted, I thought it was too bright down here, I can bring this in here, and then I can come over here and make my adjustments under basics, or maybe even curves. bring this curve down. I want that black on the shirt to be a little blacker, right? I can do that, and it just does it down here in this bottom section. I could have also picked clothing, right, for a mask if I wanted to target just her top. So that's how you use the masks. Now, make sure you come up here when you're in this mask setting. You got to come up here to this left arrow up here, go out of it, and then you're still in masking. This is a got you. You go to the next photo and you're like, okay, I'm going to be editing, right? You're still in the masking panel. Make sure you go to full image, okay? And then you get back to the basic stuff. Now, if I had done these settings here, let's say I brought up my brightness and contrast and highlights, shadows, and this was something, I'm going to do this a lot, right? This same setting, then I could come down here and I could hit this save preset and I can name it. I can put it in a group, like I had a group called test up there, and I can set the type of preset, whether it's a portrait color or an AI color preset. Okay, that's where you create your own presets. And then you can go back and tweak those presets later and adjust them. Okay, that is the color adjustments panel. Let me know if you have any questions. Give it a like, give it a subscribe. If you like this video, leave a comment. That's what we always say. The more you do that, the more the video gets seen, because it triggers the algorithm to go, oh, people are interested, right? Okay, let's go to the fun stuff. This is the portrait retouching. I'm not going to go through every little setting here. We'll be here all day, even though I call this a master class. You guys can figure some of these out on your own. You just have to go in and experiment, right? Like beard protection. Why would I go over that here? Right? There's no beard, right? So there's a lot of stuff I'm not even going to go over. Now, this model, let's do a headshot, okay? I'm going to come back over here to the basics panel, right? And I'm going to open up my presets over here, and I'm going to do just a color adjustments, right? And then I'm going to, maybe I need to bring the highlights up, maybe just a little bit, right? Maybe it was just the exposure I needed to bring up, and we'll bring the highlights down. Just trying to get it like into the ballpark, right? I think that's pretty good. Let's go back to the retouching. Now, I was fortunate that I have a model here, not a good example probably. She doesn't have any blemishes, right? She has some defining attributes, facial features and things like that make her very unique and very memorable, actually, I think, as a model. So when this model comes in, you're going to remember her, right? Just because she has these unique attributes, and the imperfections are what make us beautiful, right? If we all looked perfect and the same, no one would be beautiful, right? So we have certain imperfections that make us beautiful. So she's got a couple beauty marks here, and I like it a lot. And this is a model I won't forget. Won't forget this face for sure. She won't blend in with everyone else, and I think that's a good thing. So I just did the basic preset on the color panel. Now I'm in the second panel, portrait retouching, right? She doesn't have any blemishes that I really... There's nothing there, okay? We can zoom in, and there's really nothing there. But even though there's not anything there, let's just say I brought this freckles and acne over, okay? I'm going to zoom way in. Look at the pores in the skin. I'm going to bring it all the way over to 100. And while it does remove some things, you can see that it did sort of soften the skin a little bit, the pores and things like that. It's not a skin softening effect. It will remove imperfections, right? In this case, I don't want to remove them, but keep in mind that I'm going to pull it all the way back. Keep in mind that if you look at the pores here, it's going to do a little bit of skin softening if you pull it over to 100. And that's why I tell people, if you don't have to pull it to 100, bring it to like 20 or 30. 30 is kind of my 29 or 30. That's kind of my go-to. And then you can further refine it if you don't want to do the freckles and you just want to do the acne. You can do that, okay? In this case, keep in mind, we're going to go down and do some other things. If I bring this over to 100 and then I go down and do some of these other things and I bring them up to 100, we're going to get a very unnatural edited look. The point is to keep this stuff natural, right? She's a natural beauty. She doesn't have any acne. Well, why am I going to use it? Pores are a natural thing. We want to see pores because that's what normal skin looks like. If I don't need to use it, don't use it, okay? We could, if we had a lot of face shine, and you'll get a lot of models that come in and they need a powder or something, or maybe you should have had an MUA, but they come in and it happens. They've got face shine. So in this context, I'm happy with the face shine. We have a very soft lighting here. There's a little bit right there. I like it. I would leave it alone. But for the sake of example, we could hit this, watch the face shine on the nose and the cheek right here. We can reduce that down. Okay, did you see how I did that? And if you want a softer look, that's one way to get it. It will tone down those highlights on the face. Okay, I like it the way it is. It's fine. Dark circles, easier to see when you pull out. She kind of has, I wouldn't call them dark circles. They're just normal eye lines, I guess, but that's a common one for people to have dark circles in eye bags. So I'm going to bring that over to 100. Don't recommend, but dark circles, she doesn't have any, so we don't notice it. But if you bring the eye bags over, you start to notice right away. I'm going to do before and after by hitting the space bar. You start to notice right away. Hard to see because we changed our exposure, but I'm going to bring this eye bags back. Now you can see I brought it back. She doesn't really have them, so this doesn't apply here, but that's where you would use those, and that's one of the more common features that I use. If they have glasses on, you can remove the glasses. They're a cool feature, okay? No lip wrinkles and flakes to speak of, but if they did, that will clean that up. Now we go on to, say, body blemishes. Not a good example, but if she did have like imperfections on the body, things like that, that's what that's going to handle. All right. What I like to do, just as a recommendation, is collapse these as I go. So I keep them all collapsed except for the little section that I'm working on. So now I'm on skin retouching. When I go down to the next one, I'll close skin retouching and I'll go down to maybe eyes, and I'll open that one. That just you get them all open and you lose track of where you are. Okay, so let's go to skin retouching, and this is where your dodge and burn is, right? Let's go back over. I don't remember which one I was on, if it was this one or another one, but let's show you what some of that skin retouching is doing. The dodge and burn, it's an even. It's not a targeted dodge and burn. If you use this in Photoshop or whatever, it's not as targeted as what you can get there. It's an automated process. It's going to smooth out the differences between the lights and the darks, okay? So the more I bring that over, did you see it? I'm going to bring it back. There's without it. I'm going to bring it all the way over. There's an eyeball here too to turn off just that effect. So I'm going to turn it off, and you see, and then turn it back on. It evened out sort of the lights and the darks on the skin, and it gave her more of an even tone on the face. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit and let's turn it off, and that's what it did. Okay, so that's all the way over to 100. Again, I would say 30 is what I usually will put those at, right? And that gives me a nice even. You might want to do 50. It depends on the model or the subject, okay? And it depends on what the client wants, okay? And then the sculpt will define the shadows and the highlights even more. We'll turn it off. So right there, you can see we got darker shadows, right? So you have some textured smoothing that you can use, some frequency separation, which I can't tell you how many times I've done manually in Photoshop. We can bring in the frequency separation to even further smooth things out. Did you see that? I'm going to turn the frequency separation back, and there's that. I'm going to bring it up, and it totally flattened everything out, actually. So you got to be careful with that. You're going to lose a little bit of that 3D pop if you turn this up too high. I don't usually use this. I try to keep as a natural look as possible. So let's go back to the skin retouching where we were, and you can do smoothing on the body skin. She doesn't need it. These are just examples, right? And you can actually do the original skin softening if you want to. This is going to be for, more trouble skin, right, than what I'm showing you here. There's facial reshape. I don't hardly ever use these, but you can. If you want to go in and explore all of those. Facial expressions, interesting that you could do that. It does know what expressions are, so let's see what happens when we give it. She already has a gentle smile. Let's go here, and she has sort of a gentle smile there. No gentle smile there. She's very serious. That's a very modelly shot, so maybe we do this, and she gave us a gentle smile, right? I just find that it's weird. So I'm going to pass up on that. Teeth, obviously you have teeth flaws removal and teeth whitening. Eyes, okay, let's go back to this one. Her eyes are popping as it is because I've got a large 48-inch softbox I was shooting. So we're getting good light in the eyes, right? But you might want to, if you didn't get a lot of light in the eyes and they're kind of dark, you could go into the eyes section. You can raise up the brightness, right? I'm going to bring it all the way over, and this is actually too much, right? So I would say no. Target certain areas, like the iris is already up to 80, right? The whites, be careful with the whites. Like that brightness, did you notice the whites came way up? She's going to look like an alien, okay? Don't do that. Watch the whites of the eyes. You don't want to get them too white. Like, bring it down. Let's come back down to earth, okay? Eye reflections. I didn't really notice a difference there with the eye reflection. Iris flares, if you want to pop the iris a little bit, that's the colored part of the eye. We're doing pretty good here as it is with the iris, and then remove glasses of glare. Eye white enhance. There's a red vein removal that is activated once you do the eye white enhance, okay? So if she does have red veins, and she has one, well, now okay, let's pull that back. And she had a few more evident red veins, but you can remove the red veins there, okay? And eye white cleanse, so that's going to help cleanse the eyes for you, okay? Red eye removal, does anybody ever get that anymore? I guess it's possible, but haven't used it, but it is there. You could add catch lights if you want to, right? I've got a pretty good catch light, and you can actually, that's me right there. I'm facing to the right. You can see my elbow right there and my bald head. So we've got, pretty good catch lights of the softbox and me in the room, right? But if I wanted to, add something in there, I could add more sort of catch lights in there. If I didn't have good catch lights, you can see that it's adding something in there as we go along, and you can adjust the position of those catch lights, okay? I'm going to turn those off. Makeup. I love the makeup panel. We're not going to put any makeup artists out of business here, but if you wanted to give her makeup, these were for digitals. They don't usually wear makeup on digitals, and look, she's a natural beauty. Doesn't need it anyway, but we could adjust the makeup here with different parameters, but they also have, they got lip makeup, eye makeup, all of that. They also have a makeup suite down here that I love playing with, and you can do certain presets in here, like the sheer looks pretty good, and it will add, some eye makeup, and we can play around with some of these other ones, right? And just give her some, from natural, it actually changes the expressions on the eyebrows as well too, so it's doing a little something there, right? Here's a cat eyes. We can do all these things. I like to stack them and use them like one by one. I don't have an issue with the eyebrows, but we could go in there and darken the eyebrows a little bit if we wanted to, and reshape them if we want to, right? Her eyebrows are fine. I'm going to leave them the way they are, but I like doing the eyeliner, right? And doing a little wingtip, which is kind of cool. And then I can bring the amount up or down on the intensity right here, right? I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So maybe I pick this one right here. It's a lot, right? But I can pull it back. It looks better. There's a nice one right there. It's more subtle. It's set to amount about 70. I like that. I can turn it off, and that's before, and that's after. And then I can go to eyeshadow, right? And say I want to give her something bold. I could, right? That's pretty cool. So these are pretty cool looks. If I wanted to play around and do something, after the fact, give her some blue eyeshadow that matches the clothes, I could, okay? So we have these different options, right? I think this orange could look pretty good, right? So that's a neat feature to have. Nobody talks about it either. I love that. Love that feature. All right, hair. The only thing I see here, we've got a little bit of messy hair if you look at the top up there. I've got to be careful with this though. I usually am using it. We could change the top hair volume, give her more volume. She's got volume, right? She's already got volume. I don't think that we need to do that, but we could if we wanted to. Volume on the sides. We could change the hairline. Stray hairs removal is what I use a lot. I'll bring that over here and look at the top, and boom, it's going to bring those down. Now, the more you do this, the more chance you're going to have of, I've got a pretty neutral background. If you got a color background, it's going to start blurring out the edges, and you may have some inconsistencies in the color right here at the edges of the hair with the rest of the background. So you got to be careful with this stray hairs removal. Take it up to about 60. It's just going to blur out some of those stray hairs on the edges. I'll show you the before so you can see it cleaned it up just a little bit. Boom. So we cleaned up the hair. I like that. You can smooth the hair, which doesn't look good on girls with frizzy hair, by the way. I like to see the detail in the hair. So there I've smoothed the hair. It works better on ladies or men, I guess, with straight hair. Curly hair, I kind of avoid it because I like to see a little bit of crunchiness in the hair, right? So I'm going to turn the smooth hair off, and we've got that texture, and the hair has come back, right? So not, use these to taste, and we can bring some hair shine in if we want to. In combination with the smooth hair on somebody with like black straight hair, for example, that smooth hair looks really good. She doesn't have white hair, but we can blacken white hair as well. We can give her a different hair color if we want to, right? Haven't played with that much, but the options are there. Hands, we can definitely remove hand veins and things like that. These are things that I'm not going to get into. I didn't do any hand photos of her. Full body reshape. You can do this a lot. Maybe I want, for whatever reason, you've got these things where I can change the hips or change the waist, the width. Her waist is perfect the way it is, but if you want that cinched look, you could do it, right? Some clients will want that. I recommend you stay away from it unless the client asks for it specifically, right? You can thin out the arms, the neck length. If I want the neck length to be a little longer, I could do that, right? They like that in a lot of the runway models and stuff. They like that long neck. Or the one that I like to use a lot is the leg length. Gives them a little length in the legs, right? We actually made her look really tall there, right? And you can get that in camera by shooting from a lower angle. So yeah, we're cheating a little bit, but it looks good. And this will look good on a comp card. If I had shot from a lower angle, it would look like that anyway with lens distortion, okay? So that is the retouching panel. Now, I'll go ahead and say the game-changing feature with the retouching panel, okay? Let's look at this one. I had already done some edits here, okay, with this, and I can now take, if I've retouched the entire photo, I can now take all these AI edits that I did, whether they be skin retouching, blemish removal, makeup, and I can either Control or Command C, copy the portrait retouching section, right? You can expand that and it tells you if you want to get specific about what you want to copy, but I want to copy all of that, right? The portrait retouching. And I want to then paste that, maybe sync this to several images or all the images in my shoot. Let's see if you look at these, she's no makeup, right? There's no edits. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to hold down Control and I'm going to select these other ones here, or I can select all of them, Control A, right? And I'm going to come down here and choose Sync. This is where the power is, right? Whatever I want to sync, whether it's crops, background adjustments, or whatever, I can sync that. And I'm using the makeup one because it's very obviously noticeable, right? And I'm going to sync that to these other shots. And I've given her makeup and done all these other AI edits, dodge and burn, all that stuff, and I only had to do it on one shot, all right? Change the edit to the eyes, all that, and I can sync it over to all the other shots. So there is your power, right? That's the power of this program, is I can take these AI edits, do it once on one photo, sync it across all the others, okay? And invariably, you're going to have sets of photos that you sync because the lighting is going to be different, or the location is going to be different, or they're not going to be headshots, or whatever. Maybe we're over here and I move the lighting around, and it's you're going to sync this set of photos where she's on the stool, right? I'm going to sync this set of photos where they're head and shoulder shots. Okay. So that is the AI retouching. That's the power of it, is being able to sync AI edits across your entire project and be done in no time at all. So let's go to the background adjustments and let's see if I can find a photo that here's where I missed a little bit on the edge. I did a pretty good job on this shoot where I didn't miss very much. If you're not locked off on a tripod, you run the risk of getting some of the room in the shot. And on the right side here, I did that. I missed the paper a little bit. Let's pretend I got to have this shot, right? I'm going to go over to my presets. I'm going to color adjust with my preset the way I like it. But I still have this thing on the right. In Photoshop, I'd have to do Content Aware Fill. I have to select it, do Content Aware Fill, go in there, save it. Here, all I've got to do is go to the background adjustments here and use this distractions removal, okay? And boom, it fixes it right away. Now, if I've got a dirty floor and this floor was a little bit dirty, I'd also want to hit clean backdrop and boom, it cleaned the floor. So cool. And now I can, here's where the power is again. If I have 50 shots where I messed up the background and we have a dirty floor, I can select, I'm going to do 3, but let's pretend they're 30, and I can sync this cleanup of the background or whatever else. In this case, I'll choose background, portrait retouching, color adjustments. I'm going to sync all of those to the other, say 30, 100, 1,000 shots. I only had to do it once, right? That's what I want to ingrain in you about this program, is that you make these AI edits and you do them once and then you sync it across your program. Let's say she has lint. I can go down to the clothing adjustments, right? And we have a deblemish clothing, and we'll bring, let me zoom into the lint first. So there's the lint, right? Can you see it right there? We're going to go, let's pretend she has a lot of lint. Deblemish clothing, we'll do that, and you can see it removed all of that lint. I can sync that to all the rest of them, and it removes the lint on all the photos automatically, is my word for this, right? So a lot of power in this program. The clothing edge smoothing comes in handy for shots like this. Watch the edge here. You know, this may not be a big deal to you, but people notice it. The edges that are wrinkled and things like that. Clothing edge smoothing. Watch this. It's just going to smooth that out for me. That's so helpful. And then if we have all these other shirts, see, this one's even worse, right? It's a little bit, for me, distracting. I notice it. So I'm going to click this one that I fixed. And you can see on all these other ones, she has a little bit of the wrinkles on the edges, some more than others. She had it more there. But I'm going to pick the original that I fixed. I'm going to go back to these other ones. I'm going to hold down the Shift key this time and select this one on the end to select them. And I'm going to hit sync. And let's just sync the, let's sync the clothes and accessories adjustments. That's all I'm going to sync. And now we go to each one of these and you can see there's the before, there's the after. We forgot to do the deblemish clothing, but we could have done that too. You go here, see we've fixed that little wrinkly stuff. It also fixed it over here. You can see the before and the after. Go to this one, there's before, there's after. Now you might, 100 may be too much. Maybe you want a little bit of wrinkly to make it realistic. It's up to you how you want to do that, okay? You can also de-wrinkle the clothing too. That's the big thing. If they have a wrinkly shirt, you see that? You can de-wrinkle that. So here's the before of all of everything, and I've straightened out the edges, de-wrinkled the shirt, got rid of the lint. We're good to go, right? And then I can sync that across to all the shots. Very powerful, okay? Let's go back to the background adjustments. I kind of skipped around there. Sorry about that. We're going to go back to the background here. And we talked about the distractions removal, the cleanup backdrop, the unify lighting. This works really well. Let me go back to my library. The lighting is not a lot to see here. So let's look at this shot. I had this shot in the collections, and I love showing this shot because it just shows you what Evoto can do, okay? I'm going to hit the distractions removal, and I'm going to tell it distractions, right, on a solid backdrop, and boom, it just does so good right there, right? And maybe I want to color adjust, bring some of the, there we go. I could probably bring the exposure up a little bit, but let's just look at the backdrop refinements. So the clean backdrop, we could do that too. There's not really any dirt or anything like that. But we'll tell it solid backdrop. Sometimes you got to help it along. Let's look at the unify lighting. That's right here. I'm going to turn that on. And let's tell it solid backdrop, and it's going to set it to 100. Did you see what it did there? It sort of evened out the lighting on the backdrop. So I'm going to turn the background adjustments off. That's where we started. Yep, that's where we ended up. I'm going to bring the unify lighting all the way back and watch it. So you can see it's kind of dark over here. It's lighter here. It's dark up here. It's light right here. We've got a little shadow here, more of a shadow there. We want to keep the shadows, but I want to unify the lighting a little bit. That's going to even out that background a little bit, like we had an even light across the backdrop. Do that to taste. You don't want to do it too much, it just depends on the shot, okay? So those are most of your background adjustments. I could change the backdrop if I wanted to make it gray. I can make it a gray backdrop. And then what do you notice? We've lost all our depth, right? And our shadows. Go down to opacity and bring it down a little bit, right? And that's going to bring back your shadows and some of your depth, okay? And then you have some other specific options in here that you can tweak. We can add shadows if we don't have any, and we can set the blend mode to multiply soft light, whatever looks best. And then we don't have any skies right now, but we could do sky replacements if there were a sky. I don't have any. I think you guys have probably seen that before, okay? So I'm not going to go over that here, but that is an option. Let's look at the cropping. You can create your own crop presets. I usually, for Instagram, it's a 4x5 crop, so we can do that. I can crop it just in 4x5, just like that. Hit enter, and it's going to give me a nice little crop there, okay? We also have vertical alignment, auto alignment options. You can try those out. Let's see what it does. This is going to align it based on her eyes, right? So maybe it's going to straighten it out for me. I don't feel like that was perfect just because it's cutting off her hair a little bit. Maybe I do that, and that's what it thinks the vertical alignment should be based on her eyes. You also have the option to create your own crop presets. If you want to crop, you have a lot of similar images and you want to apply the same crop, you could also copy paste the crop if you want to, and then you have options for rotating, horizontal, AI horizontal correction in these crops. So you do have some crop options. I don't use a lot of those very often. Most of mine I'm just cropping either as it was originally cropped or like a 4x5 for social media. Okay. Last but definitely not least, as far as the edit panel goes, and for the longest time I didn't even notice these things up here, but you got to go to the edit panel. You have these tools up here at the top left, right? We're always using the hand tool most of the time by default, but you do have a manual liquefy tool and a manual healing tool, right? And so let's make sure you're in the edit panel. Those are going to activate those. The one that I would use most is this healing tool, and I'll give you an example here of how I would use this, but there's 3 tools inside that. And if you've ever used Photoshop before, you're very familiar with these. You have the spot healing brush tool to hit little spots to manually, like you would say in Lightroom. You have the similar thing, like maybe I want to get this little spot right here. I use the left or right bracket key to resize it. That's next to the P key, and that's real easy to use. Or I have the patch tool. I'm going to undo that, and maybe I want to just kind of take one little trouble spot. Maybe the blemish removal tool didn't get them all or whatever, and I just have one spot that I want to get. Or maybe I don't want to use those tools and I just want to get the one spot. I can highlight it, drag it over to another area, right, and get a little sample of the area next to it. I don't know if you can see what it's doing there. Let me undo that tool, right? So there's the original, right? And I highlighted that little spot right there, and I'm going to move this up, and you can see that it takes whatever was next to it and put it in there, right? So I repaired that section. The other one that I could do is the clone stamp tool, right? And I wish I had someone with some more blemishes, more pronounced blemishes, but you can see we've got just a little spot here. And this is where you can hold the Alt or Option key down and get a target of where I want to. I'll click there where that target is one time, right, with my mouse, and I'll come down here and I'll just kind of paint, and it will paint what I loaded up in my target there. I loaded a sample up by clicking there, right? And I just painted that in. So we have those manual options. A lot of times what I'll do, let me go to I'll give you another example, right? Let me go back to the library, okay? And I'm going to go down to my collections. Those are down here in the bottom left. Those are just albums. I can create an album and just put random shots in there, right? So I have this album called Evoto Demo Shots that I do some things on, right? Let's go over to this shot right here. It's pretty much finished, right? But originally, and I'm going to go back to the edit panel, and I'm going to go to the background adjustments, right? Not the portrait retouching, but the background. I'm going to turn off my distractions removal, and I'm going to show you in a minute how we use these manual retouching tools to maybe retouch spots here. So this is the before, right? And it did a really good job. It's meant for solid backdrops, but even though I had a non-solid backdrop here, the AI did a really good job of just cleaning that up for me, right? And it's hit or miss sometimes, like on the edges here, it gave me a nice seamless edge. Sometimes it doesn't, and you get some weirdism on the edges. So it doesn't always get it perfect, right? Now these down here, it filled in actually the edge over here. Sometimes like this line might not be straight and it might be weird or something, and that's where you could take, one of these healing tools. Usually I'll use the spot healing brush tool, which oddly enough kind of works like the remove tool in Photoshop. Maybe I didn't like this little spot right there for whatever reason. I'm a perfectionist and I found it distracting. I could go do something like that and it's going to grab those spots. Or if the edges, the AI didn't fill out the edge, like there's a little spot right there. What's going on there? We got to fix that, right? And it's hit or miss. Right, there we go. Sometimes it takes a couple taps and you got it, right? Or sometimes the AI will not make a straight line. It will have a little smudge there. You can go in here and start doing that, right? Or I can come up here. Let me back out a little bit. Control minus and control plus. We'll zoom in and zoom out, right? Maybe I find this stuff a little bit distracting, or I wanted to move some of this orange stuff over to the edge. I could use my clone stamp tool here, right? Right bracket increases the size of the brush. I'm going to hold down my Alt option. That'll give you your target window, and I can click one time, and that's going to load up a sample. You see this? If I come over here, you can see a sample is loaded up in there. Now, pay attention to your hardness. You've got your size that you can manually adjust here, and opacity, which is the intensity of the effect. The hardness, I usually have a soft brush, and I can come over here and maybe start painting some of this stuff. And if I wanted to bring it over to the edge for the example, I could. You got to watch out for repetitive patterns. I see some, so those are things that maybe you could come back with the healing tool, right, and get rid of some of these repetitive patterns that I see here and here, right? So other settings that you need to notice in the menu will give you your hotkeys, see what they are: undo, redo, copy, paste, delete. Pay attention to the menu settings and the hotkeys here. Will speed up your workflow quite a bit. Okay, I've hit most of the highlights. I didn't hit every single little thing in the program. There's so much in it, we'd be here all day. I will say that if you want to, there's other things that you want to check in your settings. For example, your preview setting, your preview size. I've got mine set to the highest, 3000 is the default. Full size preview and real-time color adjustments. It's going to give you the best quality preview image, okay? One thing to be aware of is that you're going to have this Evoto watermark here. If you've done any edits on the photo, I believe it's non-free edits, you're going to get a watermark, and that watermark is going to be there until you export the photo. So let's talk about export, okay? So this is deliver. We want to deliver this photo. This is probably needs a little bit of exposure adjustment, but I can take this photo, I can Control A, I can select all of them, I can hold down Control Command and select a few of these just like this. Say I want to export the 5 of these and deliver them to my client. I'm going to select them and I'm going to hit export. And you have these different presets that you can export to TIFF A3, A4, JPEG, smaller JPEG, a full-size JPEG. Usually I'll say full-size JPEG, but for starters, I'll do a custom import, and I will tell it where I want to export a specific folder, the original folder. I usually tell it some specific folder where, I put it out we'll choose specific folder, and I've got, say, under her name, I've got an edit folder that I've created, right? And I'll say select that folder, so it separates the edits out from everything else for me, right? And I could put a subfolder if I wanted to call it Evoto. I'm not going to do that. This time we can rename it if we want to. This is pretty cool. I have not tried this yet, but you can upload to an Evoto instant online gallery, and what it says here is we can instantly create the online gallery link for a client or team. File updates follow your when file name exists setting. So I have not used that before, but we can explore that a little bit further. I need to go to the help, go out to support and look up instant online gallery. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm an expert in a feature that I haven't used before. So just so you know, we can give it the original file name. Scale type, I leave it alone unless you have a specific reason to upscale or downscale. Just leave it at the defaults. I'm using a JPEG, and best percentage, these are going to give you the full size JPEGs. These are pretty big files too, with a 60 megapixel sensor. So, you could bring it down to like high 80% is going to save you some file size, right? I'm going to put it back up to 100. And then I usually don't choose sharpening for output. If you have a watermark, you could add a watermark to the file right here. You need to go out and select it. You can see here, I've got a watermark.ping out there in one of my folders. And if I wanted to put that on there, it's very faint. You can see that it says Gregory K Photo, or maybe you can't. I can bring the opacity up or down, right? Depending. So you can add the watermark. I can adjust the horizontal or vertical position, right? and we can position it left, right, bottom, bottom, right. That's the section right here in the quick positioning. Okay, I'm not going to put that on there. I'm going to leave it the way it is, and I'm going to hit export. Now, once you export, you go up here to the top right, and you see where it says right there with the arrow, it's telling me I've got one job exporting my attest, and it tells me the folder that it went to. So it'll open that file location for me, okay? And you can see that it put it in that export edits folder. I had a bunch that I exported out earlier, so it did put them in here, okay? And you're done. And now you can take these photos, and whatever your delivery method is for delivering to your clients, you can go ahead and do that. I think that is going to be about it for the presentation. If you ever want to see information about your profile, that's up here. It will tell you how many credits you have, and you can tell I've got 993 remaining, and when my next billing is. Cloud storage, you do have that option if you want to sync across multiple machines. And then you can go in here to some other things. About Evoto will tell you the version. See if you need to update, what devices are being used, other basic information. I will tell you the credits are good for a year. And if after a year you don't renew your subscription, you will lose credits. So read the fine print, but you have a 30-day grace period, okay? So if on the day, a year, you forget to upgrade or it doesn't auto-renew, don't worry, you got 30 days and you don't lose your credits. I hope you guys like this program as much as I do. I really think it has saved me in my workflow hours and hours of time. So if you guys like this video and it was a help, give it a like, give me a subscribe if you want to see more, leave a comment if you have questions, let me know. I'll be glad to answer them. Have a good one.